All right. With that, let me just say another preface to why I think this video is so important. This is one of those times, and I've said this over and over again, all of us have made a lot of mistakes through our years on living on Earth, me included. There's so many, I hate to even think about it sometimes. But as I've also said, most of them, not all of them, because I've made some sloppy ones, but most of them have been because I believed the dominant narrative too much. And the reason I'm saying this is because having gone through medical school, gone through internship, working in the emergency room, one of the main things that people came in to my practice with, this is now over 40 years, was something to the effect of, I have a rash and maybe I'm sick or my child does, and we want to know what this rash is. And I remember even 35, 40 years ago, having this sort of sense of panic inside. The reason was because I knew, truth be told, that I actually don't know what the rash is. I don't know what the diagnosis is. I don't know whether this was measles or chicken pox or fifth disease or, herpes or something. There obviously were certain characteristics I was told about, but faced with real situations, I had to admit to myself that I just couldn't tell what this was. I didn't know if it was a drug eruption or an allergy or measles or chicken pox or something. And of course, I thought, if I hadn't slept through that dermatology lecture in year 2 of medical school, I bet I would know this because I was so boring and the guy didn't seem to know what he's talking about. So if I only knew more, like these crack dermatologists at UCSF, then I would know exactly that this was this and that was that. But unfortunately, I got my way around that by sort of making up some nonsense and saying, well, all the indications are, it looks like chickenpox. So let's go with that. But I must admit, I didn't know. And the other thing is having been schooled that each one of these skin diseases is a separate viral infection, or at least most of them. Otherwise, it's a separate disease called, dermatitis or allergic eczema or pemphigus or something like that. These are all distinct diseases, and I was meant to learn them and know the individual characteristics. And I had to admit that it was so complicated, and the real world situation was you could hardly tell the difference. But I basically sort of lied to the patients and made up some story about how I know, because they sort of demanded that I must know this because I'm a doctor. But I had this uneasy sense. First, it was that if I only had paid attention, I would know. And then I started wondering what there really is behind this. And I think when you see this video, you will see this puts one of the final pieces in the puzzle, and actually understanding just how these diseases were categorized, or I would say mischaracterized or miscategorized, is one of the keys of understanding the nonsense of virology, the nonsense of so-called epidemics, and the nonsense of supposedly stopping epidemics with so-called vaccines.